another reaction video. Today I'm reacting to to a fanfic that somebody's reading that I haven't reacted to in a long time because my channel got deleted. So I got a crap ton of views from this video, so I'm gonna re-upload and do it again. This is called Let Her In, and a dark fic of MLP. So without further ado, let's get to the video. 3, 2, 1, start.
Raid Shadow Legends is a dark fantasy RPG. Raid is all about collecting
The creepy atmosphere. Here we go.
Night 1. A hoof tapped against the window panes. It was 4 in the morning, and Fluttershy was standing outside of Applebloom's bedroom window.
What?
Her eyes were blank, and her smile slight enough to go virtually unnoticed. As Applebloom turned her head towards the window, Fluttershy raised a hoof and tapped against the glass again. She mouthed 4 words, her mouth barely moving.
What the fuck?
It's cold out here.
Applebloom pulled the covers over her head. She listened to the creaks and groans of the house settling. It would be dawn soon.
That's just fucking creepy.
The tapping started again.
That's seriously fucking creepy. Really.
Night 2. Fluttershy was standing outside of the window again. Her eyes didn't look quite right, but Applebloom would have been at a loss if asked to describe how. The dark red stain across the left of Fluttershy's face contrasted harshly with her normally bright fur.
Red
She again
scash.
tapped on the glass, again mouthing those 4 words.
It's cold out here.
It's a summer night. It's not cold.
It was not cold. If anything, it was an unusually warm spring night.
Oh.
Applebloom pulled the covers up to her muzzle. A part of her wanted to open the window and let Fluttershy in.
What the hell's that?
There was that whisper at the back of her young mind.
No,
Some part of Applebloom's brain said.
do not open the window.
Yeah, good idea. Don't open the window.
So she merely sat there, staring into Fluttershy's slightly off eyes.
What the
Sleep
hell?
seemed a remote possibility, but eventually it came.
You want to stare contest? There you
Applebloom
go.
passed off just as the tapping stopped.
What the fuck?
Night 3. That night, Applebloom dreamed of toys, not merely.
I'm not gonna lie. That scared the shit out of me. That seriously scared the shit out of me. Holy fuck. That's why I do like a stare contest. Like, boom. Reason why I'm not showing a lot of emotion right now because it's 5 in the morning. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. 6 in the morning. And I want to make sure I don't wake anybody up. So,
toys in general, but familiar plush or wooden faces from her childhood. She saw the wooden dolls Granny Smith had given her. The hand-me-downs from Big Macintosh and Applejack were also there. Although they looked dingier than Applebloom remembered, she found herself digging through what seemed to be an unending pile of toys.
What am I looking for?
Applebloom wondered. Applebloom decided a minute later it must be King Paws, her favorite teddy bear.
King Paws.
She remembered loving him immensely when she was a foal. But why couldn't she find him? Surely he must be somewhere. Surely this relic of Applebloom's foalhood was not so easily buried. But King Paws hadn't been buried. Had he?
Aww.
He had gone missing. He had vanished from her life one spring night, and Apple Bloom had never been quite the same since. With this realization, Apple Bloom started to sob. This rush of emotion yanked her out of her dream. Fluttershy was standing outside the window again. Clutched in her mouth was a tattered, old teddy bear.
Okay, that's just fucking creepy.
Night 4. Apple Bloom slept in Applejack's bed that night. She made up some excuse about nightmares, horribly aware of how immature she sounded.
It's
But
better
her
than
big
nothing.
sister was more than willing to switch bedrooms for the night. And of course, Apple Bloom could not tell her the real reason she was so distraught. Lying in bed, Apple Bloom started thinking about her foalhood for some reason.
Huh.
She recalled bright eyes peering out from an open wardrobe, shadows slinking across the floor, a husky sigh as she approached sleep. But those were not memories, were they? Surely
That's
they
just
were
really
simply
creepy
the
as hell.
remnants of past bad dreams. Applejack complained of a headache the next morning, but otherwise was none the worse for wear. Night 5.
That face, seriously.
Apple Bloom was alone in the house. Her siblings and grandmother had left the premises, the former due to a last-minute order, and the latter due to some business with a distant relative. They would not be back until late the next day. Prior to bed, Apple Bloom locked all the doors and windows in the house. She made a bed for herself on the living room couch,
Oh,
and as one final
yeah, guys. I forgot something. I'll be right back. Sorry for the delay, guys, but for some reason I had to go for this. My Infinity Gauntlet. I feel safer with it around for some reason. Alright, let's get back to the video, shall we?
precaution, Apple Bloom took an old garden hoe from the barn. She laid it next to her makeshift bed within Hoof's reach. It was raining outside.
Oh, I love the rain.
Apple Bloom listened to the raindrops splattering against the roof as she dozed off. Occasionally, she was convinced she heard something else. A footstep, a bang, a whisper. No, it was her imagination, or perhaps the wind. Apple Bloom snuggled deeper under the blanket.
What the hell?
More noises. They sounded as if they were coming from her bedroom, but that was impossible. The window was closed.
Are you sure?
But was it closed?
Holy fuck, this is actually getting scary.
Apple Bloom sat up, her heart pounding. She thought her locking down of the house had been thorough. But
Nope.
hadn't she intentionally avoided her bedroom, trusting the window to be closed? Yet any pony in her family could have opened it prior to their leaving. Even more noises, banging, and perhaps footsteps. And Apple Bloom was now certain they were coming from her room. She clutched the blanket, quivering. What was she going to do? Investigate? Flee? But what if it really was her imagination, and the window was firmly shut?
Then why is it creaking?
If so, stepping out of the house might put her in more danger. Apple Bloom threw off the blanket and dropped to the floor. She had to know. Perhaps she was trotting to her own death. But it was better than simply waiting for some unknown horror to grab her.
Yeah.
Apple Bloom took the garden hoe in her mouth before she headed up the stairs. The house was silent, but Apple Bloom was not fooled. She approached her bedroom with caution. A part of her expected the door to fly open and for some awful creature to pounce. and having a weapon of sorts made Applebloom feel brave. Brave enough to gently push the door open without hesitation. The window was open. The wind, now practically howling, was slapping sheets of rain and leaves into the room.
Oh boy.
Judging by the twigs and leaves that had accumulated under the window, it had been open for a while. But the window was not the part that made Applebloom pause. It was not the cause of the scream that climbed halfway up her throat. She saw it within seconds.
Oh boy.
And once she did, Applebloom thanked Celestia she had not stepped into the room. Something was in Applebloom's bed. A pony-shaped lump was visible under the covers.
What the
It was
fuck?
moving, its chest rising and falling with every breath. Applebloom thought she smelled something rotting and dusty, like the pages of a very old book. But she could have imagined it. Applebloom did not move. Neither did the creature, save for its breathing. Applebloom realized the creature did not seem to notice she was there. It did not stir.
This is actually just give me chills, guys, because this is really creepy. Like, I'm literally looking all around, even though the sun's starting to rise, but it's still creepy for me. Especially at this hour. Okay, let's get back to the video.
As she stood frozen in the doorway, nor did the wind and rain seem to
good.
disturb it. Applebloom eventually left the room, quietly shutting the door behind her. She went back downstairs, slower this time, as not to make too much noise. Applebloom ended up spending the night in the barn. When her family returned and demanded an explanation, she made up some half-believable story about a burglar. She refused to return to the house until all the rooms had been searched.
That should be good.
As Applebloom had expected, no signs of a break-in were found, save for the open window in her bedroom. Applebloom returned to her bedroom after the search was complete. Other than a few dry leaves and the lingering smell of decay, there was no indication of anything having slept in her bed. However, Applebloom found that one of the dresses in her wardrobe was covered with dirt and what appeared to be a single, bloody hoofprint.
Eek.
Applebloom burned the dress in the fireplace later that day.
Fucking advertisements.
Welcome to Raid Shadow Legends. If you're wondering just what you're getting into, Raid Shadow...
Night 6. Applebloom stayed up all night. She was sleepy to the point of near madness.
I
She
haven't before.
refused to tear her eyes from the window. Fluttershy was watching her yet again. This time, she
Why is
held
the
a
music in
single
this
piece
one?
of ripped cloth from her mouth. It was from the dress Applebloom had burnt. Applebloom had buried the remains of it in the yard. Applebloom thought of the eyes and the shadows that seemed to have haunted her early foalhood. She was now convinced she had also heard scratching noises and perhaps tapping. But memories and nightmares had become interchangeable as of late. Applebloom was not wholly convinced they were not one and the same. The two sat locked in what seemed to be a staring contest until morning came. As soon as Celestia's light poked its way through the clouds, Fluttershy turned and trotted away.
So she can't be out during the daytime.
Applebloom did not get up from her bed. It was minutes before she at last gave in to slumber.
So
Night 7.
7, 8, 9.
Applejack had found the remains of the dress and demanded to know why Applebloom was burning her clothes.
Yeah.
She also asked Applebloom about her apparent sleeping troubles and her hostility towards Fluttershy. Applebloom confessed nothing. She made excuses that were far from plausible. Applebloom did not care if her sister was satisfied or not. A part of her hoped Applejack would send her away, perhaps to a relative's house. At least, Apple Bloom would be far away from this nightmare if that happened. But Applejack had not sent her away. Apple Bloom was certain Applejack was consulting Big Macintosh over the matter. But for the time being, she was forced into another staring contest with Fluttershy, or whatever loathsome creature wore Fluttershy's face, outside her window. Fluttershy pressed her hooves against the window. Her eyes seemed larger than they should have been.
Jesus.
She appeared mournful, as if denied some great conquest. Apple Bloom could only stare for so long before she turned away. Fluttershy mouthed those familiar words again.
It's cold out here.
No, she's talking like creepy.
Apple Bloom stuck her head underneath the covers. She did not hear Fluttershy tapping at the window, but that mournful face had taken over her thoughts. Night 8. Apple Bloom thought she might have been sleepwalking the previous night, for she had not awakened in her bed, but curled up in front of the closed window.
Is the face going to change? Oh, it is.
Enough is enough, Apple Bloom thought as she lay in bed.
She's had
It
enough.
might have seemed like a brave proclamation, but in truth, Apple Bloom was terrified. She again did not sleep. Her eyes focused on the creature outside of her window. Fluttershy returned Apple Bloom's stare, smiling and licking her lips.
The fuck?
Night 9.
That's terrifying.
Earlier, Apple Bloom had overheard her older siblings talking about doctors. She was aware they planned to send her to one. Whatever her siblings planned to do, Apple Bloom was confident her troubles would end soon enough. Apple Bloom opened her window that night.
What?
She waited until the sun had almost sunk below the trees before she did so. Her family had dozed off a little while ago. Confident she was the only sleepless soul in the house, Apple Bloom left her bedroom and went downstairs. In the kitchen, Apple Bloom procured an old gas lamp. She also took the sharpest kitchen knife she could find from the drawer, far more useful than the garden hoe she'd chosen last time. But in this case, the purpose was not mere defense. Apple Bloom waited until darkness had truly fallen.
Oh, she's gonna kill the creature.
Then she crept back to her room.
What's with
The
thing's
gas
teeth?
lamp held precariously in one hoof, and the knife handle in her mouth. Apple Bloom nudged the door open, inch by inch, careful to minimize any noise she made. The creature was again lying in Apple Bloom's bed.
I'm actually getting
Outline of
goosebumps,
its
guys. I'm
form
getting
underneath the
goosebumps.
covers.
Holy crap.
Apple Bloom placed the gas lamp on the floor. She froze as it touched the floorboards with the slightest thump. But she saw no evidence of the creature awakening at the sound. Apple Bloom held back a sigh of relief.
Shit's really
Apple
getting
Bloom
real.
waited a few more minutes to ascertain that the thing was asleep. She then approached the bed, knife still clutched tightly in her mouth. She was shaking, but she refused to hesitate in this moment of action. Apple Bloom reached the side of the bed and gently pressed both hooves against it. She eased herself up, carefully pulling herself onto the bed next to the creature. And then the creature moved.
Oh shit.
It was only a slight shift, as if it was trying to get comfortable,
Uh-oh.
but it was enough to completely destroy Apple Bloom's nerve. Apple Bloom dropped the knife, a squeak of terror flying out of her mouth. She pressed both hooves against her mouth, but it was far too late.
Uh-oh.
The creature seemed to sense Apple Bloom was near.
What the
It
fuck?
moved in one swift, jerky motion, arching its back and bending its head in a way no normal pony could have managed. The creature gave a long growl, its body appearing to convulse.
What the
Threw
fuck?
covers from it. Applebloom screamed, leaping from the bed. The creature leaped from the bed as well, moving in a way similar to a spider. It still resembled Fluttershy, but its neck was bent at an unnatural angle as if broken, bent to one side and upside down. It regarded Applebloom with its upside-down grin, a grin extending far past what should have been possible. Its tongue hung limply from one side of its mouth, like that of an excited dog. It was panting in eagerness.
Jesus Christ.
Applejack rushed into the room, a gas lamp in her hoof.
What in the hay is going on?
Applejack said breathlessly. But Applebloom could only whimper, pointing a hoof at the creature that now stood in silent triumph near the window. Applejack's eyes widened with bemusement and horror.
What in darnation?
The creature moved its neck again, adjusting its head to a more normal position. Its face no longer even vaguely resembled Fluttershy. Instead, it had morphed into some
Put
twisted
that tongue back in
mockery
your
of the
mouth.
Shy
No one wants to see your
face.
tongue.
The mouth stretched even farther.
Those
the
eyes are
pupils
fucking
smaller
creepy.
than pinpricks. It was breathing heavily, a tongue at least a foot long hanging from its gaping maw.
Ooh!
Applejack threw the gas lamp at the creature. It shattered upon impact,
Best way to kill it.
setting the vile thing on fire.
Best way to kill a shapeshifting demon? Burn the fucker alive. Burn the
All at
motherfucker.
once, the creature's twisted face rearranged itself. It now became a more accurate representation of Fluttershy. The flames started to engulf it immediately. A scent not unlike that of sulfur rose as patches of its fur hastily burned away. The creature objected loudly, alternating between screams eerily similar to those of Fluttershy and deep screeches not unlike that of a tortured bird. The fur and flesh burned away at an unnatural rate, the screams and screeches continuing long after they should have ended. The last to surrender to the inferno was the light pink mane. After a few moments, all that remained was a charred skeleton.
Hehehe. Fuck you, bitch. Glad that's over.
Applebloom and Applejack did not speak to each other. Neither spoke a word of the incident, even after Applejack had buried the body in a secluded part of the farm. In fact, they both took the secret to their graves. Applebloom never again slept with her window open, even on particularly hot nights. Eventually, she was able to resume regular interaction with the real Fluttershy, although it took months before she could look her in the eye. And for a while after that, Applebloom would shudder every time Fluttershy smiled. The creature's smile would haunt her for the remainder of her days.
Hopefully that won't be a problem.
Occasionally, on nights when it was particularly cold and the wind is close to howling, Applebloom will swear she hears a tapping at her window, but she never gets up to check. She merely snuggles deeper under her covers, willing herself to enter dreamland quicker. But it is a little harder to ignore the voice.
What?
It whispers to her, seemingly inches away from her ear.
What voice?
It sounds very much like Fluttershy.
It's cold down here.
Oh, come on! You tell me that thing's not fucking dead? Oh, for Christ's sakes. What am I witch do? You can never get rid of anything so evil and freaking mad like that. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. I got goosebumps now. For some reason, I had to grab this. I felt safe with it for some reason when I was reading that fanfic. Especially at this hour. So, like and subscribe, turn notifications on, follow me on Instagram, Follow me on Twitter. Friend me on Facebook. As always, I'll see all y'all next house. Peace out, everybody. Love y'all.